to suspect it's symptomatic of a greater animus that is just sort of soaked into the bones of the SEC to crypto, I think is a fair thing to draw from it. And it's just certainly consistent with everything else we're seeing from the SEC.
The Ripple case, in my opinion, our industry didn't have our best foot forward with Ripple or with Binance, but with Coinbase, we certainly do. And so I'm, excited about the outcomes there and getting more information. Also excited about the recent ruling with Grayscale. DCG, a subsidiary, gets a favorable ruling. What was that, yesterday or the day before? I think it was yesterday.
It was Tuesday. I don't, these days, I
Who
don't
knows
even know
what day it is even
anymore.
today that we're recording this. Yeah. So Tuesday, August 29th, I think.
Yes.
We see this Grayscale ruling come down, and this is a 3-judge appeals court, if I'm not mistaken. And tell us a little bit about, so I think everybody's probably read that the SEC is going to have to go back to the drawing board on their rejection of this spot Bitcoin ETF application and come up with new reasons if they can. If they choose to, I guess they could just choose to approve it at any point. 45 days from now is when they have to make a determination, from what I understand. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And tell us what that means in conjunction with the BlackRock application. Do you think that there were people at BlackRock that were reading the tea leaves on this case, or do you think that they were just fortunate in their timing their application for their spot ETF?
So it is a big case for a number of reasons. I think the chief judge of the DC Circuit was the author of the decision, and so in these panels, you have 3 appellate judges because a case has to be decided one way or another. You have 2-1 or you have 3-0. That's the only way it shakes out. So,
right.
If it had been 2-1, I'm sorry?
Do we get 3-0 in this case?
We did get 3-0. So if it was 2-1, you generally have the judge who disagrees write a dissenting opinion, essentially expressing how the court should have found for the other way. So if you had that in this situation, you would have gotten an argument as to why the SEC was right about what they did was not arbitrary and, just evidence of their own caprice and making it up as they go along. They not only were they 3-0, but on every single substantive point, the court disagreed with the SEC's argument.
Wow.
So the argument in this case, to the extent someone wasn't paying attention, is spot ETFs and Bitcoin have been proposed for a while, and the SEC needs to approve these before they're traded on an exchange. They've been rejected for years and years and years. BTC futures exchange traded products had been approved. And it didn't quite make sense why a Bitcoin futures product would be allowed and a Bitcoin spot wouldn't be. The argument was that there were mechanisms to ensure that fraud and manipulation wouldn't happen with regard to the Bitcoin futures product, but the applicant couldn't prove that their product was safeguarded from fraud and manipulation. I think part of what was going on is like the Bitcoin futures product is literally only trading contracts on an exchange in the United States, whereas Bitcoin's traded all over the world,
right.
In every possible exchange you could, structure and location imaginable. And somehow this distinction was really important to the SEC. In any event, the SEC's reasoning in each one of these instances, it didn't make sense because it fell apart when you actually compared the 2 products. This distinction that you could safeguard one and not the other really didn't make sense because the 2 were very closely tethered. You couldn't mess with one without messing with the other. So this case really established that this distinction the SEC is making makes utterly no sense. the showing that the SEC is demanding that these applicants make is unreasonable, and that essentially you need to go back and consider this applicant, like this product again, and this cannot be the reason. Or
Are
if it
there
is the
other
reason,
reasons?
you need to provide more reason why this actually, the reasons you have given so far as to why this distinction makes a difference are insufficient as a matter of law. You need to do more with this reason, or you need to come up with other reasons. And they don't really say, they don't give them the roadmap that far, but the point is like this, what you've been doing so far is just insufficient as a matter of law. The United States Code, specifically the Administrative Procedures Act, requires more of you. You're acting unlawfully. So go back and do it again. And we'll see what they do. They've stuck, if they have another imaginative way to shoot down this product, there's going to be more lawsuits. With respect to BlackRock, I mean, it's probable, I would imagine the folks, I mean, BlackRock puts out 1 billion products all the time. Other than Larry Fink talking about this one, it's not like I would doubt that it's other than a very small group of people like actually working on it, but I would imagine that they would have done some legal work on it, and they would have seen what the landscape is, and they would have seen this as an important thing to do at this time if after having received some sort of made some sort of determination on the merits of the legal case. But I would imagine they would have looked at the case and probably came to the same conclusion that the DC Circuit did with respect to the merits of it. And but look, there are a lot of these exchange traded products. When this whole shameful mess resolves itself and an exchange traded product actually shows up, there are probably going to be lots of them.
Yeah.
Because why play favorites with any one of them?
Right.
What that does to the market, who knows? I'm not an expert in that, but I do think it is a remarkable repudiation of what has been an embarrassingly obstinate SEC on this issue. In the face of a world which has long since disposed of this issue as a problem. Like everybody else has made products like this. It is just the SEC who has a problem with it. To suspect it's symptomatic of a greater animus that is just sort of soaked into the bones of the SEC to crypto, I think is a fair thing to draw from it. And it's just certainly consistent with everything else we're seeing from the SEC. But this is why we have a court system in this country. This is why we have a court system in this country. And thank God for the good people in crypto to actually stick up for the ecosystem and stick up for what they're doing and not lay down like people in TradFi are all too happy to do under most circumstances when the SEC says no.
Hey, it's Amy. Click over here to subscribe, click over here for more content, and we'll see you next time.